Good morning, folks. Marc Frederic, Le Charcuterie Anglais here today. Nice to see you. I'd like to continue on the theme of British cattle, British breeds of cattle, and more importantly, to continue, with Scottish breeds of cattle. We started with the Highlands. We moved on to Galloway, including Belted Galloway. So I'd like to move on to Ling cattle. And Ling are spelled L-U-I-N-G, pronounced L-I-N-G, Ling, okay, Ling cattle. So they originate from the Isle of Ling on the west coast of Scotland. And it was the Cadzow brothers, some farmers there. Sounds like they're of Polish origin with the name Cadzow. So they put together the beef shorthorn with the Highland and came up with this cross and called it the Ling. And it was a good idea, to put two native breeds together to come up with a heavier class than normal Scottish breeds of cattle. Coughing again, still. But, sorry. And yeah, so it was a good idea because it's difficult for Scottish farmers to come up with cattle with a decent yield. Now, when I say a decent yield, a heavier yield to what you could normally get, like with the smaller breeds, like the Highland, the Galloways, etc. So by putting the shorthorn to the Highland, they managed to lift the yield up and produce killouts of 500 kilo plus at which is a great asset to Scottish farmers, and that's where it should, in some ways, lie and stay, just there. But they've gone on and formed a Ling Cattle Society. I'm not sure who actually decides something becomes pedigree and becomes cattle of a cattle society. I'm not sure who decides that, but anyway, there it is. It's there, and but it's my belief they don't belong there. They just belong as a cross, Highland short beef cross. So now we've got this cattle society, and then we've got all these different colours because it's a mixed race. And the Formula Ones, F1s, and listen to me, Formula One. Brrr, we're not racing a bloody speed car. The F1s, this is a good description for an F1. A shorthorn, not a short beef, a shorthorn. Again, it's like a Highland. I mean, that's a good F1 cross to me, and for good reasons. They've done it for good reasons, because you want the hardiness of the Highland. And you don't want any excessive fat, which you won't get with Highlands anyway. And but you want to bring some fat and body weight, so hence the shorthorn. So so they've put that in. So they've built it up, and the cattle are reasonably hardy, I have to say. And I've seen them for myself around Scotland, particularly on various Isles of Scotland, Isle of Islay. Never been to Ling, but Isle of Islay, Isle of Bute, many other isles I've been to, Isle of Mull, and you see Lings all around this area, and they're decent, hardy cattle. Not my favourite, not the best tasting. However, they do create yield, and they tend to keep most of their natural positives, like relatively easy carving, without having to have vets, brought in, because that's what you get with native breeds, then easy natural carvers in the main, where you never need to fork out money in vet fees, because the animals do all the work for you. That's they've been building up their DNA lines to cope with all these measures all by themselves for tens of thousands of years. So the minute you start crossbreeding, you start losing some of these attributes, and this is where it just starts to creep in with the Lings, in my opinion. And but anyway, it pushes the yield up, and that's what Scottish farmers kind of needed at the time, because all your costs to bring on cattle are the same, especially when it comes to the culling, because irrespective as to what the yield is going to be on your cattle, you've still got to pay the same culling charges at the abattoir when you send your cattle off to abattoir. So whether it's a smaller breed like the Highland or the Galloway, for example, you know, their killing is about 450 kilos. That's still the same charge, because it's still the same amount of work that has to be put in. So how do the farmers, you know, get a bit more profit? And this is one of the ways that they've achieved this, is by putting this breed of cattle together. So I'm falling into the trap now, calling it a breed, because to me it's not a breed. To me it just like kind of describes what it is or what it should be. But then again, you got now the Ling cattle is formed the way it is. And I'm not going to change it. I'm not here to try and change it. But you've got Lings against Lings, and I just don't think that's right. I just don't think it's the way to go. But hey ho, who am I to say? I'm just here on this video just to give you my 2 penneth, as it were. So Lings are not for me. I understand, should I say, you know, why it's been done and why it still continues to be done. You know, not a fan, to be honest. They do thrive, shall we say, or they survive very well. Put it that way, they survive very well in the Highlands of Scotland. And other breeds do better, but you know, the Lings do pretty well, I have to say. They're very, very hardy. You know, if you can afford them a bit of shelter, they do even better. So, and that doesn't have to be artificial shelter, you know. So if they've got access to little valleys or some woodland and things like that, they'll do it. They'll do a lot better. So yeah, that's what the Ling is. So yeah, it's basically a shorthorn put against a Highland, and then it's bred out again from that. Which once that starts, when you start diluting bloodlines, you're losing it for me. And you never really hear of people asking for Lings like south of the border, and I think that tells you a story. You know, the quality is just not there. The yield is there, but the quality isn't. If only you could, you know, measure quality or prioritize quality over yield, sometimes we'd do far better. So anyway, there we are. Got to mention Lings. They're part of the Scottish society now. You know, rural communities and things. They're not for me, but you know, people will hate me for it. But you know, I've got an opinion just like anybody else. So yeah, it's as much as I want to say about the Lings, really. You know, I'm going to end this video as quick as I can, because I feel as if I've said enough, and yeah, I've said enough. It's not for me. Next video will be another Scottish breed of cattle. I'll talk about the Shetland and about my visit to Shetland some years ago, etc. That will be the next one. Okay, for now, that's it. I'm done. Ling, not for me. Okay, might be for you, just not for me. Toodaloo.